Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining. This is the Cove Data Protection Advanced Monitoring Bootcamp. My name is Eric Harless. I'm the head backup nerd here at Enable, and I'll be taking you through the next 2 hours of Cove monitoring. So advanced monitoring, what we're talking about today is how to pull, manage by exception, find your problem devices, do some resolution or configuration or management of those problematic devices. We can either deliver those via email, pull them out via API, run them as automated tasks or scripts in your RMM tool. So lots of ways to pull and slice and dice the data coming from your devices in the backup.management Cove console. Ideally, you're going to be managing by exception. So whether you're managing 10 devices or 1,000 plus devices, and yes, I do have customers with several thousand devices in their dashboards, it's great to be able to filter on the ones that are exceptions and only export out or interact with the ones that have problems. So I'll show you how to filter on some of those items. You may or may not walk out of this with the exact steps that you need in order to solve your monitoring problem. It may just open your eyes to the possibilities. You may want to schedule a follow-up one-on-one nerd call with me where we can go into a little bit more depth. This particular session is really good for new users of Cove, existing power users of Cove, prospects thinking about moving over into the platform to see if it offers what you need from a monitoring and reporting perspective. So hopefully this will pique your interest and we will talk more in the future. Before we get, like I said, too deep though, let's make sure we make the lawyers happy. Depending on the questions or comments that come up today, I might talk about a feature or a function that is not yet generally available. Something that's in alpha, beta, engineering preview, customer preview, things like that. And I guarantee I'll show off a couple features today that are in that state. I'll do my best to preface anything like that as forward-looking. So that way you know that it's not something that's generally available in a product, and you really shouldn't be making a licensing or a purchasing decision based on code that is not yet generally available, as the deliverable, the time frame, or the feature set could change or even be dropped completely before a GA time, or could shift significantly, okay? Sample scripts. I'm going to show off some sample scripts, some API calls, some JSON objects that you can utilize to grab data above and beyond what's available to be pulled directly out of the Cove console or via the local command line. A lot of that's predefined or pre-done for you, but as with any types of scripts, review them, understand them, take them, convert them, make them your own. Officially, Enable doesn't support custom scripts under any of our support or service programs. And while I try to write these that are turnkey, there are the possibility that things could have changed. Something could be different between the time it was built and the current implementation that could cause the script to stop working. So I really do encourage you to take a look at it, understand it, make it your own. That doesn't mean that I don't want to hear from you if you have a problem. I just got an email about 15 minutes ago on a item in my GitHub repository where it's not returning the data expected that the customer is looking for. In the quick email review, it's likely just a permissions issue that we'll need to address, but don't waste a lot of time on these if they're not working as you expect. Use my contact information in some of the script samples that I'm going to present to you, and schedule some time so we can talk through them and see if there's a better or more efficient way to tackle your needs and not have to reinvent the wheel. We may have just met. I may have spoken to you previously. We may have known each other for years if you're a long-term Enable customers. Regardless of that, please review and test scripts. Don't just take my word for it. Anything that I've posted or created is going to be available on my GitHub and me sourcing alone. But even with that said, test it in a non-production environment with a trial device, trial customer. And once again, understand what it does, or reach out and ask questions before implementing scripting and automation that you don't fully understand in a production environment. Okay, just good common best practices there. Now, somebody in marketing thought it would be great to throw my picture up on this slide. So I guess it could have been worse. But for those of you that I don't know, my name is Eric Harless. My title here at Enable is Head Backup Nerd. I've been working on the Enable backup product line since I joined. So that's now about 10 and a half years, going on 11. I've been in the data protection, disaster recovery, business continuity space for 25 plus. getting much closer to 30 now. Mixture of sales, support, system engineering, but mainly product management roles. What do we build next? What is the competitors doing? What is the market trend? Where have others had success and or failures, and learning from those? My first 6 years, in fact, here at Enable were in product management, building out and expanding functionality inside of Cove. ISO Online Backup, Max Backup, Enable Backup, SolarWinds Backup. You pick the brand or the name, all based off the original ISO Online Backup technology that GFI Software acquired back in 2012. Okay. If you'd like to reach out to me and talk about any of that or anything else that we have went through today or other topics, you can reach me. It's eric.harless@n-able.com. My Twitter handle or X handle, if you want to reach me on social media, @backup_nerd. I'm also part of the various Slack channels. You can find me on Reddit. You can find me on the various Facebook groups, things like that, or feel free to interact with any of the other Enable community folks that are out there. They can bring me into a conversation if it's a forum that I'm not actively monitoring. Okay. Bold shirt. Thanks, Leah. All of the nerds got that. We actually gave them out at our Empower event one year as well. I've got a really, really nice group of Enable customers / partners, fully decked out in these Asteroid knockoffs. Although if you look at them really closely, a lot of them look like UK power adapters. But I appreciate the comment, Lee. Thank you. Okay, let's see. What is our agenda for the day? And this reminds me, I need to bring this slide up on a different window just so I have it to keep myself on track while we're going through the session today. This is roughly, like I said, the inaugural release of this bootcamp. While I've done it now, practiced a few times, it's only the third time in front of a live audience. So I may bounce around a little bit or adjust content or get ahead of myself or behind myself a little bit, only because you talk about the same thing multiple times during the day. You forget if you talked about it now or was it at 8 a.m. this morning. I will try to pepper in some of the anecdotal pieces and other comments and queries that came in from the AM session as well, but don't let that stop you from dropping questions and inquiries in, and I'll do my best to address those as possible. So what we want to cover today, we want to look at monitoring. How do I monitor in the dashboard? And we'll look at some of the basic navigation and some of the different areas you may or may not have clicked into inside of Cove. A little of this is going to feel like review in the first hour, although it will get more and more advanced as we go through the session. If you have to drop for some reason, recorded versions, like I said, expect to be available on the Enable University at some point in the near future, but they do normally cut those up and do some post-processing to them to break it into different segments or sections, okay? Remote commands, we'll talk about remote commands and how you access those, and how you can apply those to multiple devices. It's more of a management aspect when you're doing monitoring. How do I take action now upon these? So we'll talk about that just a little bit. We'll look at data exports. So how can I get data out of the console, whether it be all devices or a subset of devices that I need to take actions upon, or generate a report for, maybe for an executive summary, or to trigger other interactions. We'll look at how we can customize a view by adding columns and dragging things around to give me the right data in the right view, saving it, emailing it out, adjusting advanced filters and query languages so we can build it into the UI, into the command line, and or into API calls. I'll show off some sample PowerShell scripts and JSON calls, maybe a little bit of a teaser for my API bootcamp that I do, which is more focused exclusively around some of that advanced items. And then we'll trigger out those custom views by sending them out as an email view with a little bit additional customization in console. Suffice it to say, though, if something isn't available to be done in the GUI, we can still very likely do it as part of a command line or part of an API call. And that's one of the niceties in being in the MSP space, is that you've got a set of tools from Enable that you can use to run those automations. However, if you're using somebody else's RMM tool or remote control, remote access tool, you can very likely utilize the same type of commands as PowerShell scripts to action them from a different non-Enable RMM. So let's kick directly into monitoring. I'll try to mix the slides a bit with live UI. It's going to keep me honest here and not, allow you guys not to fall asleep with death by PowerPoint or slumber by PowerPoint. Cove Data Protection monitoring is done in the backup.management console. This console is a multi-tenant console, so depending on your level of login at a distributor, a reseller, an end customer, or even a site level, you'll be able to sort and filter on the particular customer or site or client that you want to manage. You can take those column headers that are in there for the different device statistics, sort those columns, mouse over them to understand more about them. There is an export button, so any of the columns you're displaying on the screen or any of your custom views we talk about can be exported out into an Excel file that you can then manipulate or turn into a pivot table, breaking out a single Excel per customer or multiple Excels in a single zip. In addition to that, we can give you detailed usage as well. So you can pull usage for your customers, and that's high watermark or maximum value usage across a given month. There's a series of donut charts across the top, and those are going to be on the far left, filter on server and workstation and documents, how much protected or used storage is being consumed, which is useful if you're in a billing model that is broken out per gigabyte fair use. Some of you might be on some really large plans, what they call data protection plans with multi-terabytes per server, 500 gigs per workstation and things like that. You could be on a pay-as-you-go kind of per gig model as well, where it's all of the sizes add up into a flat number of cents per gigabyte type of model. The usage is meant to be able to show you that. It doesn't tell you what your licensing plan is, but it does show you the usage that's tied to the system so that you could generate some customer usage reports. And I've got some samples for any of you that are interested that could take that usage and push it out to, say, like a Connect as Manage or auto build a pivot table or Excel file or CSV file for you that could help you with your monthly billing reconciliation or even billing for your clients. Center left is our M365 widget. Center right, most recent status. This is the completed with errors, and that's looking at the last successful or in process or no backup run. Now, if that device has been offline for 6 months and it completed the last time it ran, it's still going to say completed there. So it's not completed in a certain amount of time, it's the last status. And then finally, the far right is a compliance, a time-based pivot, or sorry, a donut chart. It's going to show you the time since the last successful session, synchronization of the local speed vault, or writing to the cloud. So a combination of the rightmost and center right donut charts are going to give you really what you need in order to understand successes and failures. Let's look at that really quick inside of the Cove UI. Here I'm in a lab environment that I have. This is SE demo. So left, servers, workstations, documents, M365, status, and compliance time, okay? Any of these donut charts are clickable or filterable in the standard default view. So if I come in here and see that I've got 24 devices in process, actually let me refresh it first. 14 devices now in process. If I click on that, I've now got a list of just the 14 that are currently running, status in process. All 14 of those have backed up in the last 24 hours. So they are very current. As you can see, I've got 90 days of retention on those products down here. And it's 11 servers and 3 workstations. So let's click on the workstations. Each of those clicks, status in process with false, device type, workstations. I can remove those filters that are showing up right here. I can clear all filters. I can reset my view, clear filters here as well, refresh to get an update in case some of these jobs have stopped. A couple just finished, so now there's only 3 in process. So rather quick runs on these jobs that are happening right now. The advantage to this is that I can use these filters as a baseline to understand more advanced filtering structures and how to slice and dice myself down to the exact data set that I care about, whether it be success or failure, okay? Let's expand that kind of filter just a little bit more before we talk about some of the different time frames and timestamps here. If we expand this left-hand navigation, the filters, we're going to see the control equivalents of these badges. So we can see in process with faults, no backups, no selection, restarted, complete with errors, over quota, and blocked. So I keep adding them, they keep showing up here, and it keeps expanding the number, potentially, of devices that I'm working with. Status, right here. Last successful, right here. So that this status equates to this donut chart. This last success equates to the right donut chart here. So I can sort and filter on those as well and see those relative to my current timestamp. There are a ton of filters. I want to filter on product name or profile or OS version or when it was created or when it expires, or is there an email address entered into the system, the computer name, the customer name, does it have a speed vault? There are a little bit over 600 columns in the dashboard that you can work with, sort, or filter on. It's about 300 backup, about 300 recovery related, and then another 50 or so tied to individual configuration items around those individual devices, IP address, MAC address, internal, external, manufacturer, model, custom nodes fields, device IDs, active data sources, things like that. So we'll show some of those guys off as well. Let's clear filters though. In my scenario here, I've got 81 devices, and that is more than I can see on a single screen unless I wanted to expand up to 200 devices visible. But at 200 devices, it's still a scroll here. So knowing which one you're working on and which ones you've monitored and looked at and sorting and changing can definitely cause you the potential to miss something as you're sorting by customer and end customer and server and OS. So there is a preferred methodology of monitoring. I like to monitor devices that are active, devices that are online and I can work with first. So if the device is not online, it isn't available and checked in right now, the fact that it has an error or a problem really doesn't mean anything to me until I get that device reconnected and it's ran another backup to see, does the error go away, or was the error based on a failed or dropped connection? So I try to look at online devices first. Of those online devices, I'm going to prioritize servers over workstations typically. I'm going to prioritize high value end customers over low value end customers, perhaps your premium customers versus your non-profit customers. I'm going to prioritize CEO and executive C-level laptops and workstations, potentially higher than some back-end servers or line of business servers, depending on who inside of those organizations can hire, fire, or adjust contracts. You're going to need to build out your own workflow around that prioritization, but having something like that so you know which devices to triage first and which ones to come back and look at second can definitely simplify your day-to-day. And it's going to mean that you're not looking at all 81 devices here first. You're going to sort on servers. You're going to come around and sort on the ones that are online or successful in the last 24 hours, see if there are any problems or functions, then move 24 to 48. Any problems or issues, moving then to greater than 40 hours. Are there any issues? And then move to the ones with no backups to see, have they been uninstalled or not configured, or are they offline, those kind of things. Once again, everybody's workflow is going to vary a little bit depending on your task and your role. Let's see, 1 second here. I'm going to check my notes and make sure I'm staying on task. So we've got compliance, we've got configuration, and this is an environment where everything is actually kind of green. It's kind of a pristine, perfect, or almost perfect environment. I think I missed a backup right here this week, and some of my configurations are a little bit different. The fact that you can sort and see that all of these items don't look like the other might mean that I'm misconfigured here. Why am I using an all-in and not a 30-day or a 60 or 90-day retention? Why is this device last successful yesterday, but whereas the rest of these have happened, or a lot of these have happened today? Maybe it's not a frequent enough or consistent backup schedule that you have completed. These can be filtered as well based on time. So let's take a quick time filter, and we're going to look at a different dashboard where I have some problems. So this is my HEH computing dashboard, and we're going to go in here to all devices. predefined. You should have about 8 of these predefined in your UI as well. Now, if you've ever saved a custom view, then you'd see more down here that you could have worked with or named. And those are going to have custom columns or custom orders or custom sorts or filters applied to them normally. If you don't recognize them, take a look at them, delete the ones you don't need, create new ones, and I'll make some recommendations here throughout the day. In this dashboard, I've got a few more problems. So I've got a nice rainbow of colors here. 47 of these devices have not backed up in more than 48 hours. 8 have never had a backup. 11 of them, though, have been successful in the last 24 hours. 38 of all these devices have had good backups at some point, although only 11 here recently. So let's look at the 11 that are recent. 8 of those completed, 2 with errors, 1 has in a failed state right now. So one of the data sources or some data source has failed. So let's click on that failure. And we've now managed by last 24 hours with failures. And we can see here, this is my workstation, the one I'm actually on right now. And we've got failures, each day here. So we're gonna wanna learn more about that. How do I monitor and manage that one? Well, you do that through drilling in. We click the device, and it brings me into a device history, so I can see my session information, see my individual data sources, VMware failing, Oracle failing, SQL, MySQL, system state file and folders, those are completing successful, network shares are working. So I've got some successes and some failures, but because we're looking at aggregates, that roll up for my device would cause me to see red across the board. But in some of the additional views here, you can see the individual data sources that are causing the problems, periodic failures on network shares, consistent failures of VMware, Oracle. We got a backup failure here, and then we've had no backup attempts for the prior month. MySQL, we were off for a little while in the middle of the month, as you can see for all of these. So the machine was powered off or powered down for an extended period of time. Some of you are going to say, hey, that view does not look like my view. And that is because I am previewing a beta feature, hashtag forward-looking statements. This is something that you guys can request access to. Once you request access, I'll put the ticket in, the submission for you, and you'll get this little beaker in the upper right corner of your Cove dashboard. And this little beaker allows you to turn on newer enhanced features, beta features, alpha features, engineering and customer previews, as well as to send feedback based on that usage. So a link here to submit feedback and the ability to turn these on or off inside of the dashboard. So I'll turn that feature off now. And as we click those devices, now we're going to see the classic view. This will probably be a few months in this state, allowing us to collect some really, really good feedback from partners and correct any of the little nuances before we do a switch over. But here, history, system state, file and folders, statistics, errors, audits, files processed, files removed, recovery testing verification. So if it's booting and taking a screenshot behind the scenes, we'd see that. In this case, it looks like verification failed. So we did complete with errors on this particular recovery testing for W2012 R2-05 device. So that one is potentially worth looking at and troubleshooting. Let's see where we are. Compliance, dashboards, filters, sorts. So that structure, like I said, pick a customer to manage, click your column headers to sort them, ascending, descending, smallest, largest number of errors, smallest number of errors, timestamp, creation time, however you want to slice and dice these, but hopefully using the predefined filters at the top, the filter navigation on the left, or some custom columns and custom filters to narrow it down to just the ones that are critical that you need to action upon right now. Obviously, you don't want to do that filtering and that sorting and that actioning every time you log into the console. So you'll be able to build them and save them, set them up as email views that show up in your inbox. You can see at a glance which ones are giving problems, and you can go straight to those devices. As I said, there are several hundred columns in the dashboard. I say 500 plus here. It's actually around 650 right now. And that's a mixture of predefined columns, custom columns, Columns do allow or work with the APIs to pull data out or to put data in. I'm going to show off the exports now. I mentioned exporting for usage and exporting for just statistics. So we'll do a couple quick exports here. We can save it as I said Excel, but we can also do some APIs and some automation to bring it out into PDF, HTML, CSV, and ASCII characters, etc. And also show how we can do maximum value or usage reports that might help you in your end-of-month billing or reconciliation. So we're going to go back into my SE demo environment. That would be this one right here. We'll show off the structure just a little bit. We're going to filter on all devices, which is where I am right now, all devices. SE demo. SE demo is broken up of the reseller level, end customer levels, and site levels underneath these end customers. So my devices could exist at any of those tiers inside of this organization. So here, filtered on Asia Pacific Tech, I see just those Asia Pacific Tech devices, and they're all at Asia Pacific Tech. If I clear that and go to Africa Industries, we'll see the devices here from an Africa Industries perspective. Let's go to North American Technologies and show off a little bit different. So now I have customers at North American Technologies and at sites underneath North American Tech called the New York site office. So we're seeing a drill down from this level, including what's at that parent and what's at any of the sub-sites. So when you do an export, the export's going to bring out the columns that exist in your current view. So if I've got 15 or 20 columns in here, when I do my export, I'm going to get 15 or 20 columns. So I'll go to export. Aggregate device statistics. I'm going to pull this for the current day, which would be, I'm sorry, if I pull this for the current month, it's going to give me today's usage. If I pull it for a prior month, like April, it'll give me the last day of the month for April. So we're just talking one day off here now. But if I were to wait to the 15th of the month, then I would get May 15th or the last day of April. I can get the data two ways, as a single Excel file or as individual Excel files, one per customer. So we're at North American Tech, and that's North American Tech and the New York site. So I'm going to say multiple Excel files, and I'm going to get this in human readable format because I just want to turn around and hand the Excel file over to my individual customers as a usage report. So we'll export it. Here's my export statistics report. We'll go ahead and open this guy up, and you can see I got my North American Tech, which is the top level MSP, the top level end customer. And then I've got my marketing department and my New York site office as my sites underneath. So the usage that's at North American Tech will show here. The usage that's subdivided up into these two sites would show up here underneath those. Let's open up North American Tech and see if there's anything at the parent level. There should be. So I've got a handful of devices, computer names, partners, OS and server type, data sources, all of those columns that I had listed in the console. So A through S. Displaying that data. This would export out custom columns, ones that you've created with your own data sets inside of them as well. You can do quite a bit with that. Now, if you didn't want it as individual files, that's fine. We would just do as a single Excel export, and we'll get one file out for North American Technologies named that way. And as we open it, it'll break out a little bit more detailed here. Oops. Let me close a couple Excel files here. Munich, North America, SE demo. Let's see if that'll open now. Now, while this is great, the ability to pull these things out and work with them, you'll notice that this is not going to be really useful for you to inject into a tool or do a pivot table on, because gigabytes are in the columns here, so I can't subtotal these or really interact with these. So when doing these exports, whether it be for multiple sites, multiple customers, or individuals, I would recommend doing things either in gigabytes or in bytes. That way, as I pull the data out, let's do this for a top level, export, aggregate, single in gigabytes. Now when I pull it out, it's going to put gigabytes in the header, and that way we can do subtotaling and we can do pivots, and we're not going to have to worry about the environment. So we can see here total selected size in gigabytes, and then I've got raw numbers I can work with and calculate and subtotal. Okay. There was a question that came in here from Lee. Let me take a look at it really quick. Is there a way to ensure that local speed vault copies or caching are successfully like the cloud piece? Assuming a failure is reported in general, that means the backup in general. There are no predefined views. They're going to tell you your speed vault failures and things of that nature, but there are some views I can help you create. And I will show some of that off in the second hour around building those views out and how to fault on like a speed vault or a cloud sync. And there are some new enhancements coming with that, with those new dashboards and those new summaries that give you a little bit more visibility to sort and filter and export data out from there as well. So I will show that off for you, Lee. Good question. Appreciate you. This could be a challenge, though. This is great for an on-demand one time, but if you had to come in every month or every week and generate a report for each of your customers and which set of columns and what order do you want these columns in, and making changes, well, yeah, I could come in and sort them around the way I wanted. And I can come into columns here and turn on a few additional columns for things like archive size or activity description, and save those columns. And those columns are going to show up over here on the far right, and I can drag them where I want them. And then now that I've done all this, I can come up here and save my view and give it a new name, all devices copy 6. So now I've saved this view and it's available in my dropdown. That's great, but I still have to remember to come in and do this, right? And did I pick the right view, and did I save it the right place, and did I click all of the right pieces? Manual steps are the bane of our existence in the MSP space, because the number of clicks directly impacts the profitability of any type of service you're providing. So the fact that all of this can be done by API might be of interest to some of you guys. Others are going to say, no, I can get out of the UI here, and once I know exactly what I want, then we'll worry about automation and scripting. So when you're ready to do that, if you're not now, feel free to reach out to me. I've got those solutions available to you, and I will show a little bit of it off in here as well, okay? So let's say I wanted to look at my usage last month for SE Demo, and I want to know exactly how many licenses each of these sites and customers consumed, and devices that were added and deleted, and when they were added, and things like that. This view is not really the best for that. And no matter what columns I turn on, some of that's historic data that goes away when you delete devices. So I have a secondary report here available for you, which is a maximum value report. Maximum value report gives me the high watermark usage, or the maximum usage during a calendar month. And that's the way we bill or license in most cases, is high water over a calendar month. So we'll do maximum value, and we'll pick the March timeframe. So high water mark during March the 1st through the 31st, as a single Excel file or as individual Excels. I'm going to go single just so it's all aggregate together. I use this in order to push data into like ConnectWise or to build pivot tables. Okay. And I keep saying Excel and pivot tables. I have to learn how to rebuild a pivot table every time I want to build one. So what I've done to eliminate that need is I've built the pivot creation into a script so that it can pull this data exactly as I just did and generate the pivot for you automatically and matching month after month after month without you needing to manually configure that. So we have a maximum value report now, right here, SE Demo for March the 31st. That's the full month of March that we pulled usage. And let's look at what this usage is. So it starts over here with the device name. So here's my device name and computer name for my various systems. Device ID, what's the OS type? Is it a server or a workstation? Is it in production or in trial? What's the customer name and the customer reference field? The customer reference is just a reference field in case you wanted to map it to your PSA tool or to your RMM, or you wanted to put a billing code in there, things like that. The customer ID, the tenant ID is right here, and then we know the parent. So this Asia Pacific Tech is under SE Demo. This North American Tech is under SE Demo. This Munich Distribution is under German Industries. This New York site is under North American Tech. So you can see that we're showing a kind of child to parent or grandparent, parent, child type of hierarchy here as to where a device belongs. When the tenant went into production, the container, and then of course when the device was created. So we see creation dates over here. Some of these going back to 2019 even. We can see the device deletion date. So some of these were deleted, created on the 1st, deleted on the 4th, created in 2019, deleted in 2024. So this guy no longer exists. It was purged on April the 10th. Now, this is a March report. So the fact that I'm pulling this now and it's telling me that this was deleted after March was done guarantees it was billable during March. It's actually going to be billable during April up through the 10th as well because of when it was deleted. Other high watermark usage information here. What's my use storage currently or as of the high watermark during the month of March? So high point was 168 gigs here on March the 1st. Every other day during that month, it was less than that or the same. Here was the 16th, here was the 31st. So you can get an idea of when your high watermark was or when a feature or function was turned on. M365, I'm sorry, no, I take that back, M365. So we had 5 users at max in the month of March. The highest date was the 22nd of March when we collected this. I had recovery testing turned on the 1st of the month, on the last day of the month, so we can see when that testing or standby image functionality exists. The sizing's in here, the usage and configuration is in here, and this can be used in a pivot to summarize billing usage by client, by site location, with a little bit of manipulation, okay? And hold that thought. I'm going to show off some of those additional reports and scripting as we get a little bit deeper into it. But thinking about what you're seeing here and what columns you can turn on, the fact that I have columns for just about anything, 652 of them. So I want to look for manufacturer. Here's my computer manufacturer. I'm going to go to computer, manufacturer model name, computer name update. That's a custom column. I want to get IP. So I've got internal and external IP addresses. I want to get MAC address. So I've got a MAC address, a VMware virtual machine color bars for the last 28 days, looking at VMware backups over the last 28 days, VMware restores over the last 28 days. So each and every data source, color bar. So here's my pretty color bars for each and every data source that we have, including bare metal recoveries over the last 28 days, all the M365 components, and so on. So lots of different columns. When we look at the columns, I can sort on them and filter them here by name, alphabetically, or by short code. The short code over here we're going to use a little bit later. So just understand that a column name is going to have a very small reference code assigned to it for queries and other advanced functions. Let's see. Properties, 20-day color bars, current errors, histories, sessions. Yes. I started to talk about this one a little bit, hitting the little beaker here. Once again, if you want to get access to this, let me know in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to get you into this preview page. The beaker effectively is a beta panel. So as we build new betas and customer previews, they'll go into this section. You can come in here and turn on or turn off any of the features as you want to evaluate them and provide feedback for them as well. By me turning this on, I'm going to get a lot more detailed information on my devices. Not only the ability to see the data, but I can create filters in here to filter on error counts and sizes or synchronization status. So Lee, I think you had asked, is it possible to know if it's synchronized to the cloud? This flag shows synchronized to the cloud. If it were only on the local machine, or skipped or things like that, then you're going to not see a synchronization flag here. So yes, we could filter or understand where we're at in the synchronization list of devices that are waiting to be synchronized or sessions waiting to be synchronized. If there was a vault failure and it's only local, we can see that here in some of these views. If there were error counts, we'd see hyperlinks. We can sort on data sources with errors, timestamps. The columns can be turned on or turned off. This data can be filtered and exported now in this newer update. You can create filters. So I can build them here graphically, or I can come into my filter builder and just start adding all the criteria that exist. So transferred size greater than or less than, selected size, selected counts, error counts, broken out by different data sources. So lots of really good information, and then export it out Excel or CSV once I get what I need. All the other tabs, errors. So here is my full error list, not just from the last session, but my full error list going back in time for this device. You can see trends now based on this. I want to copy the error messages out. There's multiple counts. This one is here. I can expand it and get my full list of files or components that had a process, or actually had an issue. So really good information here. This is a great way to come in and figure out, are you erroring on things that should be globally excluded, or are you backing up items maybe that have zero recovery value, things like that. Process files, this used to be a separate tab here. Now it's just a hyperlink. So I want to look at my file and folder backup. We process 1,000 or 1,100 files. I click the link. You're going to notice that these items load significantly faster, and I'm going to say that right now as I'm loading this one, and this one might take forever. I didn't see, this is Africa Industries, so this is a South African data center that I'm talking to right now, so this might take a little bit longer to load than it would normally within your country or region, but we'll give it a second just to see if it's going to make a liar out of me. The loads, the amount of bandwidth utilization, the API calls have all been optimized with this update. So let me try a non across the pond version. Let's go to European Software Services, German, my New York site. We'll do this 2012 device right here. And let's grab the 4,000 processed files right here. Let me see if I can get this guy just a little bit faster than try to reach all the way across to the South African data center. This is a pipe to the data center, and it's going to pull data on demand. So it's not going to pull all 4,000 files at once. It's going to pull a subset of those files and then continue to query or queue them as we scroll through or start to interact with them. Just checking my questions here really quick while we watch the paint dry. Let's see. 28 days, color bars, errors, sessions. I am going to step away from that one because I just may not be working with a device that's going to be super legitimate. Let's try the 300. Let me see if a small number is going to give me any better response. Okay, smaller number did give me a better response. This is all system state backup. So what files are we backing up as part of system state? So these are the files that are processed looking for changes. So lots of log files and other items that are part of the system state backup. Let's see, here we've got files that were removed. So 300 files that were removed from the backup today when the session ran. And these are worth looking at just to determine whether these are files that are needed as part of the backup, or were they added and then immediately removed because they were package files or files that have been unzipped and then installed and then thrown away. Yeah, even that one's actually being a bit slower than I was expecting. Let's try simple, easy 22 files. Okay, I'll have to look at that one a little bit. Maybe I don't have something configured quite right on my end, but these are files that existed yesterday but are no longer here today inside of the system state backup. So we can see these Sentinel-1 log files, while they are being backed up, probably have very minimal restore value, and those actually is something that we are looking to globally exclude in a future update and cut down the data transfer size for system state. System state backup was 1.2 gigs, and realistically, there's no reason to transfer 1.2 gigs of system state. It should just be, megabytes in size. Audit information, things that have changed on this device since the device was created. Normally this would have been paged, but now in this upcoming update, we can see everything back to the device creation. So when it was originally built. As I scroll down, if there's more to load, it'll continue to load those additional pages, and we can get a look at all of the device's changes over time, schedule changes, consistency checks, restore starts, backup starts, things like that. Filterable, searchable. So if I wanted to look at, say, a throttle, save bandwidth options, we can see two entries here for my throttle. Let's see, set bandwidth, save options, set bandwidth. So some of these done at the local client, some of these done at the remote command or cloud level. And then of course, export those guys out. Let's see where we are on my agenda, and let's do a quick timestamp as well, a time check as well. I've got about 8 minutes before the top of the hour, so I'm going to cover just the remote command aspect of it a little bit. Remote commands are more of a management component than a monitoring component, but once you have filtered out a set of devices you want to take action upon, for example, let's say I've got a list of devices that are in process and running right now. So I've now filtered all these 5 devices that are running, and I know that this particular client or these clients are getting ready to schedule some downtime or a maintenance window at the factory or the office. So I could come in and with those 5 selected or filtered devices, make a selection of them and issue a remote command. I could do a backup now in order to trigger a new backup operation, or because these are running and in progress, I can come in here and I can cancel the backup process, basically force an abort on those devices. So this remote command is going to be logged with the storage node, and as they check in, no more than 5 minutes from now, they should get that queued command and actually trigger or abort that job. So we issued that. Let's come out of here, hit refresh, and we should start to get some aborted jobs here in this list. So we'll give that a moment to run through. What other remote commands, though, would I be working with? Maybe I need to trigger a backup operation, and I want to do a backup for a specific data source. I can do all data sources, so specify all here, or I can come in and grab file system and system state as text here, paste that into my structure, and now I'm going to choose backup now when these machines check in to trigger a backup outside of my schedules. From a drop-down perspective, backup, cancel, restart backup process. It's going to restart the running process, the backup manager, the backup FP, backup functional process application. And that's really good if you're wanting to force a profile update, or you want to get it to check in with an updated product or other local settings that have been changed. Set a backup manager password. This is a GUI password to lock or prevent access to the remote client through the UI. Update, check in to see if there's a newer software version update. Even though we're checking in every 4 hours, you could use this to force an update a bit earlier. Secondary commands, checking consistency of the local speed vault of the cloud. I think Lee, you had asked something about, is there a way to report on failures and vaults and things like that? If you've got failed vaults or failed clouds or you're out of sync, checking consistency or LSV consistency might be a remote command you periodically want to trigger. We'll self-heal and utilize those as well, but you've got the ability to do them yourselves. Clear backup selections would wipe out your selections. What are you backing up? Set backup selections down here, add new selections or edit or modify them. Filters, schedules, set up an archive rule or a bandwidth throttle, a schedule, turn on logging levels, things like that. Anything in the base or secondary commands, pretty much free form to utilize. In an advanced command, I would recommend only utilizing advanced commands if you are told to or instructed to by our technical support or application engineers. With remote commands, the commands themselves are going to show up in the audit. So if you were to come back in here and look at the device later, and you go to the audit tab, we'll see remote commands, execute command backup, execute command shutdown. So those are remote commands that were triggered via the console. So let's see, I'm at 1:56. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we're going to come back and go through the some of the API calls, some of the command line functionalities, and how you might script or automate some of these items. Then we'll look at building out some advanced filters that can be utilized in all of these methods, and then talk about how you might have those show up in your inbox on a regular basis. Okay. Okay, we are back. I want to go into a little monitoring from the command line because not everything is going to be managed or triggered from the management console. You may want to run something as a monitor or a script check from your RMM tool, trigger and act upon something, maybe self-heal, or trigger another action based on the various results. So I want to show a little bit about what you can pull out of through the command line or through some local XML files that exist on each of your machines with a backup client installed. And I do have pre-built examples from a PowerShell perspective and some queries around those XML files and so on to help you guys pull that data out. Probably more than you're going to want to actually utilize, but it gives you a very nice library of different functions you can use to pull the exact pieces of monitoring data that you want at a client level. Would I ever use only client or only cloud? Probably not. You're going to end up ideally using a mixture of both. Use the right tool for the right job, if you will. There is a handout document in the handout section of GoToWebinar, which has some links to the various tools and items I'm talking about today. Feel free to download that before the session ends today, and that'll save you capturing any URLs or QR codes that I bring up on the screen. The command line tool for Cove is called Client Tool. And if I bring up a administrative command prompt, I will show this off a little bit. Let's see, clear screen. C program files backup manager, and we've got our client tool command. This is available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. Obviously, it's an executable on the PC side, but the command does exist for all three. So client tool help is going to provide me with the context, the syntax, the various commands I can work with. So what can I do here? Well, I can open the backup manager UI from the command line. I can get application status. Is the application running or in process? I can add, list, modify, or remove archive schedules. I can start a backup. I can set, list, modify filters. Check for error messages on communication to the cloud. MySQL, network shares, Oracle. I can trigger a restore. Add, list, modify, remove a backup schedule. Add, list, modify, remove a script. Clear, list, modify selections. Abort my running jobs. List error messages. List prior session history. List files. Either it's an export or on the screen from a prior backup. Modify various settings, get various settings, those kind of things. So it works very simple. For example, I want to do control.selection list. So I'll take this command to get a list of all my current backup selections for this machine. So we'll do client tool help -C for command, and we'll specify the command that I want to pull the data for. So now I'm going to get detailed help around my control.selection.list. It's going to come back with a list of selections with a breakout in a table with data source, type, priority, and the path that is selected. Optionally, I can choose a specific data source, a delimiter, remove the header, output it as machine readable, and so on. So we'll take this and run it again without the help command and just get my list of selections. So here I have my file and folder selections, what I'm backing up, my network shares, my VMware, and my Oracle and my MySQL that I've configured for backup on this particular device. And this can be useful, being able to gather it here on the local device to store in an audit, to generate a hash or check some against this to notify if selections change. You know, a bad actor came in and deselected something, or a tech inadvertently deselected a directory that was critical to being backed up. Then having the before and the after based on selections can be very useful. And I'll show some examples of that information script-wise as well. The fact that we've got the command line structure here, though, gives me a lot of control. I can kick a backup off, I can start a restore, I can look at all my sessions or all my files or just my successful sessions or my failed sessions, pull the error messages out from the last backup operation, things like that. So I mentioned scripts. There is a GitHub link available, and there is our automation cookbook available at Enable Me. Both of those are going to contain a lot of different scripts available for Enable products. From a code perspective, I've got more hosted on my GitHub page now than I do in the Enable automation cookbook, although I do expect it to change in the near future. I do want to try to get them all into Enable Me, although some of them are still a bit more of a prototype type script. The GitHub link in the handout document, once you go there though, you're going to get something like this, which is going to show different categories: continuity, deployment, migration, monitoring, reporting, retention, security, troubleshooting, quick, nice, simple disclaimers, explaining what some of the scripts do, how to go about downloading them. To download, you can pull the entire repository as a single zip by hitting code here and downloading the zip, or you can pick individual files. So let's go in and look at some of my monitoring scripts. Let's do a Cove Monitor version 13, Cove Monitor version 16 verbose. I think this would be a good one. This is a script that's designed from a behavior perspective to get the Cove service status settings, local speed vault status, to enumerate your active data sources, your statistics, and your selections, and then get any data, any Cove errors per data source. So if any of those queries will cause an error, the backup's been more than 24, 48, 72 hours, depending on how you have it configured, it will throw alerts. The vault's in a failure state, it'll throw an alert. Your vault's under 90% synchronized, it'll throw an alert. Those kind of configurations, all configurable here in the script. If a service is stopped, it'll attempt to restart it. So this is a really nice check that you could run regardless of your RMM in order to pull health of your backups and dump it into your RMM or to your PSA tool directly. It's all broken out very modular as well. So we've got functions in here for getting your backup state. This is checking the service. Coming down here, getting the data sources, getting fixed volumes, getting USB volumes, getting filters, getting backup errors, getting your base status report. The top commands up here are using client tool to pull data from the command line. Items later in here are using the status.xml file, and they're just parsing out client version, time zone, timestamp, profile name directly out of a section in that status report, in that XML file. And that's constantly being updated. That's a great way to monitor the local device and not have to issue a secure API call to the cloud, and you're already on that device because you've got an RMM agent there. This is what the essential monitoring is doing behind the scenes. It's what the backup checks inside of Insight do behind the scenes. This PowerShell script could be used with Insight. It could be used with ConnectWise or other script-based monitors. And we're going to either exit with an exit code 1001 and a global fail if there are any warnings or alerts, or you could change your error codes or have it keyword on warning : in the script. Now, let me actually show you the script running so you can see some of the output. This script is meant to give you a lot more data than you might generally want from a monitor perspective, but I built it in a way that it shows you the successes alongside the failures. So that way you can ensure that, yes, you are really getting all of the failures and there's not some side condition or edge condition that you missed out on, okay? So let's see. So we've got my Cove UI up here, 7 data sources. Let's get back to VS Code and run one of these. So I'm going to run this monitor over here, and I'm going to run Cove right here. I stand corrected. That was the wrong script. Get reports, no. Set device, audit bandwidth, Cove monitoring. There we go. So I'm going to let the one on the left run a little bit because it's going to interrogate the local machine, and it's going to give itself a little bit of time to make sure things are not running. It's not in the middle of a process of a job, and so on. Some of the first stuff that it does, though, is going to pull a device name, machine name, customer, OS version, product profile, do some basic phone homes or connection tests to make sure that it can communicate properly. It's a service running. If the service is stopped, attempt to restart it X number of times, depending on the script, or report that, no, the service has been uninstalled, but we see previous log files for the device, which would tell me that it was either intentionally or unintentionally uninstalled, and that would be worth triggering a failure or an alert on. We're going to enumerate the data sources, files, network share, system states. Most machines don't have 7 data sources, but from a lab perspective, this works nice. Speed vault, synchronized and synchronized. So we're going to grab that information. Here's my color bar, my 28 days of backup sessions per all of these cumulative data sources, but I can look at a snapshot and see when file system was successful and when the others were successful or when they failed, including grabbing errors for VMware. So here's 2 errors for VMware on my local client. Here they are. The ability to pass that through to your PSA tool means you don't necessarily have to go to backup.management in order to start to troubleshoot some of those. Some of it could be, oh, we just need to restart the service. You know, why go look at a console that I don't need if the error is fairly straightforward, or better yet, parse the error, and if it's a certain error, automate or trigger the action automatically. So what we're seeing on the right should mimic exactly what we're seeing on the left. Device services running, device name, machine name, time zone, profile information, speed vault enabled, synchronized, 530 gigs selected, 611 gigs used, 612 gigs used storage right here. My vault path, my data sources. C is a fixed volume with 319 gigs selected or available to be backed up. D is a USB drive. Based on that information, I can choose to include or exclude it. Here are my selections. When I'm backing up for C, go to the backup tab, and here are my selections. So it takes you having to jump on the client out of the configuration. What I hear most often here is, wow, that's nice, but I just kind of want to basic, is it working or is it failed? And then I'll go troubleshoot it otherwise. That functionality is in here. We just hide a lot of this informational items behind a verbose flag. So there is a verbose version of this and a full version. The verbose hides most things but the errors, unless you tick the flag for verbose, and then it gives you all of the data. That way you can calculate, yes, is it monitoring success right alongside monitoring failure states. Now, when we get down to failures, let's find something. File and folder, here's my color bar over 28 days, 90-day retention. The last good one was 5/1 at 441. That was 0.01 hours in duration, and it was 13.5 hours ago that it last ran. Success is measured in 72-hour increments on this particular script. For workstations, servers are measured in 24-hour increments. So I need at least 1 good backup per data source in every 24-hour period on the server, 1 per every 72 hours on a workstation. Otherwise, this is going to fail. We'll scroll down and find a failure. VMware. As you can see, minuses, that's failures. There's my key, failed. Completed is a plus. So no runs here in the middle of the week or middle of the month. 1,500 hours since my last successful VMware environment. I've got some bad credentials. And how do I know that? Well, because there were 2 errors reported. These are the actual errors. No data available for backup. Check your settings and environment. cannot complete a login due to an incorrect username or password. So I cannot log into the ESX server, so therefore I can't back it up. So therefore I get my errors and my running timeframes. As I said, these are all modular, so you pull out the pieces you want, ignore the pieces you don't, and you can monitor just about anything out of Cove directly from your RMM, and not even talk to the backup API if it's not something you want to do. Okay. That's command line, that's XML, all client-side based reporting. There are other report structures where you have to talk to the cloud. So we're going to come in here and do a max value plus report. Let's see if I can find one. Cove Data Protection, Audit GUI, Get Reports, Auto Deploy, Monitoring, Universal. I'm fairly certain I have it loaded here. I'm just not seeing it at the moment. Backup.management menu, Hyper-V, credentials, max value plus report. Here we go. I showed a max value plus in the console. We exported out the usage and broken out with high watermarks. Well, this script does that exact same thing, except you don't have to go and build any configuration. You just right-click on your desktop and run it. All of my scripts are going to have something very comparable. We're going to show you the name in the script in the window, the name at the beginning, parameters so that you know the configuration or the parameters you can apply to the script. Current set parameters are hard-coded parameters in here. So we're running for the current month or 1 or 2 months prior, or I could put a period, a date in here, month, year, year.month, either way. Where is it exporting it out to? Comma delimiter or semicolon. What my fair use model is per server, per workstation. This particular one can send data to ConnectWise Manage if you've got an agreement set up with ConnectWise. It's got debug capabilities in it, but it's going to really pull high watermarks. So I'm going to run this from my SE demo environment. So that's my customer name. That can be embedded so that you don't have to enter that and just run it. So this is going to grab current month's usage for SE demo. So it's pulling the max value report from 5/1 through 5/31. Obviously, we're only a day into it, so I'm only getting 1 day's worth of usage right now. It's going to import a couple modules since it is PowerShell, just to make sure we've got the latest and greatest modules. Import Excel is effectively letting me generate pivot tables via script. So I'll subtotal and pivot and do conditional formatting and a bunch of other really nice Excel tweaks in my output. I'll generate a CSV and an Excel file, so that way you've got both, and I can do this on a machine that doesn't even have Excel installed based on that API, based on that module. As soon as it finished building it, it auto ran the report. So I have no devices in trial for SE demo for my May 1st report. If I go to my production tab, let me see, did I do something wrong? I did do something wrong. Let me figure that out really quick. Don't save. I know what I did. I loaded the trial version of this one. I need the production version. Open file. Max value plus, statistics. This guy right here. Sorry about that. Best part of this is debugging on the fly. Try that one more time and see if we can get the report that we need. So this one's running prior month, so it's running 1 month prior. So I'll get April 1st through April 30th high watermark. Import Excel, like I said, manages and works with Excel data, builds it from CSV. The second one is a join object. And that allows me to do kind of the VLOOKUP equivalent between two data arrays in PowerShell, like you'd build a VLOOKUP between two sheets in an Excel environment. Okay. So I get 2 reports, CSV and Excel generated. They auto ran. No devices in trial for April. Go to the production tab, and I have the same kind of stuff I saw earlier in my maximum value report. I have, let's see. Device name and computer name. Now, if the device exists twice, I'm using conditional formatting to show you this device exists here and here based on a computer net BIOS name. Maybe you would want to do MAC address duplications or manufacturer and model duplications, IP address, internal and external duplications. There's lots of ways you can do conditional formatting here to see duplicate devices. Duplicate devices might mean duplicate billing, so it's something to think about. In this case, it looks like one was probably uninstalled or deleted and the other one was added back, but we'll check. Yes, so this one was deleted on April the 10th, and this new one was created on April the 10th. So this one was removed, this one was put in place to replace it, okay? All the other same information that we saw earlier though. We know the device name, the device ID, we know the OS type, we know the customer name where it exists and the reference. I should have information about site, reference, and legal name, in customer, reference, and legal name, distributor, reseller, distributor, sub-distributor. So I've got tracing that all the way back up to the distributor level if you are a distributor. That way you could see exact usage and who owns a given client, device, or tenant. Why would I use legal names and reference names? Well, maybe you are going to have a different name in your customer versus what you have in your PSA versus what you have in your RMM tool. So the fact that you can have 3 different names tied to a tenant here means that I can do the matching without having to match it 100% in the display name inside of Cove. Automatically taking this data. Is it a server? Is it a virtual server? Is it a workstation? How many documents licenses? How many M365 users? Has it got continuity functions turned on? I can take all that. It auto pivot tables right here. So here's a pivot table. Let's turn off the device name, and then you can see a nice quick subtotal broken out by in customer for all their features and functions, including the sum of their selected size, some of their use storage. Calculated fair use model based on assumptions you drop into the script when you run it. And yes, I can do the other max value report and run this through a pivot table and generate this kind of information, but why not have it generate for you? Imagine if this was set in front of your PSA tool and we push the data directly into your PSA. I have additional scripting and automation around this that can push it to an agreement and additions inside of, say, a ConnectWise Manage agreement. Something you'll notice in a lot of my scripts, we pull statistics. Let's see. For the right one here. Do monitoring, restart, internal, plus report, get reports. There we go. We pull various statistics out of the Cove API. This script is going to go through and pull out some specific columns out of the console and generate a CSV, an Excel, a PDF, an ASCII character report, things like that. And it's specifically grabbing this list of columns out of the console. So PF, AR, TB, MN, AN, machine name, account name, operating system type, operating system version, product name, product ID, OS type, and things of that nature. It's these columns that really make a lot of this work. So when we look at the console, let's build ourselves a couple filters here. Nope, not that one. There we go. That's the view I want. So let's come in here and go back to our main view. Let's think about this view and this column set that we're working on now. I've got 3 failed devices here in my view now. Let's click on one of those failed devices, and we can see these are ones I aborted a little bit earlier via that remote command. these are problematic devices. This one's actively cleaning right now. I have 3 that I can work with. And by clicking on the word failed here and then coming up here and clicking on server, my filters are all right here. Advanced filters over here on the left, failed, and structures that are configurable. These are part of a graphical query language right here, but they're also part of a advanced text-based query language. So I know that my total status equals TO or T0, total status equals 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, or 1. That's all of the different statuses that I configured. And the device type is a server, which I filtered on. So this advanced query language that I'm looking at right here equates to the graphical queries that I made in the UI. We'll go back to the normal search and we can see them all here now. Let's go ahead and clear the filters. Click on just workstations. Go back to my advanced query again. XT equals workstation. Let's try another one. Let's try devices that have been backed up in the last 24 hours. We'll click that filter. Oops, sorry, I gotta go out of here again. We'll click that filter. So I've got 13. We'll come in here, advanced search. So I'm looking at workstations and total last less than a day ago. So I'm looking at devices successful, workstation devices that are successful in the last 1 day. These filters, these query languages can be built one at a time here in the UI by clicking and drilling in intelligently, by expanding the filter panel over here on the left. As you're working on them, the searches that you queried that result in positive results are going to show up down here temporarily, so you can come back and find them. Although one of my recommendations is to build these queries out one by one to get the items and the filters you want, and then to string them together with and or conditions to get kind of the advanced views that you want. Let me get back to my deck here, back in the right place, generating reports. For that, for those kind of filters, let's do something based on local speed vaults. I think that would be a good one. That was a question that came up. I need slightly different environment here. Where is my Chrome instance? There we go. So I'm going to come in here and turn on a couple columns. There's a couple I recommend, like timestamp, which is the heartbeat of the device. I'm going to spell it right. So we see timestamps for individual data sources. Timestamps of the last completed session. I want just generic timestamp, which is really a heartbeat for the device. So we'll make sure that's turned on. It's going to show up over here on the far right. We'll drag it over and put it next to last successful. We're going to come in and we've got local speed vault status. So that column is already turned on. So let's sort on local speed vault status, just alphabetically here. These are vaults that are synchronized. These are vaults that are at 99% synced, 55, 39, 1. I don't have any vaults that are in a failure state, so that's kind of nice. So let's do an advanced filter for my local speed vault. LSV, and we're going to go for LSV and LSV status. So I want LSV enabled, and I want LSV synchronized. So now I've got them, and here's my list of 13 devices that meet that condition: LSV enabled and LSV synchronized. Any of these where the cloud storage is not synchronized and it's running, if it's less than 99% and it stays stuck there, it could be problematic. If it's in a failure state or it's a very low percentage, then it could be days and days behind. Those may not be failures in your eye, but they may be conditions you want to monitor. They could be warnings or informational alerts. Let's take these two filters that we've enabled here and change those to an advanced search. So I've got a VE equals 1, that's the vault is enabled, and the sync equals 100. We'll just modify it really quick and change it to not equals 100. So now I've got vaults that are 99, 55, 39, 1, and a -1, a failure state down here. So let's do that, maybe not less than or equal to 90%. So now I've got my 55, my 39, my 1 type of structure. So only looking at vaults that are configured, but lower percentages or greater percentages. These ands or ors can be really, really useful in building out queries. When I turn the columns on, that local speed vault column, LSV, status and enabled, VE, YV, those are the expressions that are used here in this query language. It is fairly easy to learn. It is fairly, what's what I'm looking for here, repeatable, configurable. It follows a nice logic structure. We do support Boolean queries and things like that, ands and or statements, and you can put parentheses around things and negate them or reverse them. I've got a couple blog articles that talk through this, building them out, and I go into more details in some of my API boot camps as well on some of these items. I've got a handful of these in the deck that I want to kind of show off a little bit. We're going to do some time-based stuff as well. So let me save this view because we're looking at vaults less than 90%. Cloud storage has its own columns as well, so storage status, and we can pull that, running, failed, synchronized, or not synchronized, things like that. So we're gonna come up here and hit save view, and we'll save this as all devices with LSV less than 90%. Now that I have the view, I can come up here and hit my 3 dots and set up an email view. Email view, I'll add a new schedule. It's going to come to me and any other named user inside of this tenant or external recipients if I enter their email address, so bob@home.org. So we'll add him as a recipient. He'll get an email to confirm, and he can subscribe, unsubscribe, or the invitation can time out. So we're going to send out an email view or report for all devices with a speed vault less than 90%, and that would include failed. We're going to call this CDP for Cove Data Protection, and it'll be a view name. So that's Cove Data Protection to all devices with LSV less than 90%. We'll put a space and we'll insert another variable here with a device count. And we'll just say total devices. So we're going to get a view for Cove Data Protection, all devices with LSV less than 90%, and then total devices. We'll get a number showing how many actually meet that criteria. We'll get this report Monday through Friday around 8:15 a.m. GMT -4, so my local time zone. We'll get table and summary. If the report is empty, I'll still get it to prove that there are no devices where the vault is out of sync, and we'll save it. And we'll send one now just as proof of delivery. Let me find my email, and we'll see how quickly that can come through. Backup for all devices. Yep, already here. So here is my email view. So once again, another way to manage by exception. I'm just looking for failures, conditions, items that would trigger. So CDP, all devices with an LSV less than 90, total devices 9, summary information, 9 devices, my customer, 3 servers, 6 workstations. 8 of these have completed a backup. one is currently unsuccessful, but all of them are more than 48 hours out of sync with the cloud. So those failed vaults could be the reason that the cloud has not been able to be updated yet. I don't exactly know how far out of sync they are. Let's see. If I had a column in here that was the total last successful backup column, then I would know how far out of sync they are. But the report's going to show you 200 devices deep and the first 10 column wides in your view. So we come back out to my view here again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would want to take last successful and move that over here in front of errors. I might want to take use storage and move it out, and take my LSV status and move it over here. So let's see if I've got the right 10 columns that I want now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we're going to know when these devices were last successful, how far out of sync they are. Maybe I'd want timestamped to know the last time it checked in. So obviously it hasn't checked in since March of last year. This is an archived device. So yeah, the fact that the vault isn't synchronized probably makes sense. The fact that it hasn't ran recently makes sense. But you know, there's a 2-day discrepancy between it when it last backed up and when it was checking in. So that last backup might only be on the vault or might only be in the cloud. So items that are worth looking at. Let's see, just checking my questions here really quick. Adding views, saving views. There's lots of possibilities on those views. So sorting, grouping, columns, picking the customers. When I save that view in the UI, it's locked to the filter that's here. It's locked to the selections that are here, the column order and sort orders, all of that go into the view definition, and that's what's going to be output in that email view. These views are visible here in the left-hand navigation. They can be edited or configured or modified. If you ever want to share these views with another user, it's not directly supported in product, but I do have a very simple PowerShell script that will let you export a view so that you can hand it to somebody else as a .json file that they can import with the same script. That way you could build a configuration or a report and then pass it to others inside of your organization. I know I mentioned scripting and APIs a lot here in this. I've normally found that the MSP community is rather open to scripting and automation and out-of-the-box thinking, outside-the-box thinking when it comes to functions. A lot of what I do here, though, I do for prototyping to solve an immediate customer need, evaluate how we might go about addressing it, and then I do hand off a lot of these scripts and this use cases to our PM team and our dev team for implementation into product. So while we're talking about some of this stuff, they're actively building out additional usage information for PSA billing, or they're mocking up and doing review around exporting and saving views, different kinds of reports and executive summary pieces. So you know, don't necessarily wait till those come out GA. If you need it right away, let's look for a creative solution, and then you can retire my script once the new items do become GA. Custom columns. So we've added a couple columns into the system. Let's add a new column here that we can work with. So we're going to do a custom column. We'll hit add column, and we'll call this column my data CC. So my data custom column, and I'll hit save. So that new custom column I just created exists at this tenant level. I'll drag it over here to the left a little bit, and I'll expand it. And if I come in here now, it's a free-form entry, so I can put in data, no creds, please. So no encryption keys. Nothing that's proprietary, nothing that you would not want one of our technical support engineers or developer members to see. But it is great for a ticket, for information on configuration, last error messages. You can populate this data in the custom column via API or here in the UI. I actually do that. If we go back into custom columns and you search in your UI for nerd scripts, I've got a handful of predefined nerd scripts that I have built custom columns for. So we'll go ahead and select all of those and hit save. We'll clear my filter. And then as we scroll to the right, we're going to see those extra columns that I just turned on. And let's see what's inside of those. So I have a custom column and a script to review the audit and capture your bandwidth throttle settings. To review the audit and capture your GUI password settings. Did you set it, and are you allowing restores? Did you set it, and when did you set it? Did you clear it? When did you clear it? Bandwidth throttling, on or off, start time, stop time for the throttle, unlimited, settings like that. So on and off at midnight. Error messages. This is the last error message for the device. Instead of clicking on the device and going into it, I just pump the error message right here so that I can look at it and evaluate it, sorting it in order based on timestamp. So this one was a March 25th error. This one was a 7/25/2022 error. These can be cleared out. They can be left if you want to look at troubleshooting to see when was the last error ever for a device and see if you have trends. Just like I could put this into your local local RMM or PSA, I could put it here and then pull it out via API. Okay. Lots of other reasons you might look at that. I showed you selections and inclusions and exclusions and USB drives and things like that. Here, that local script that runs and sees how big C drive is, looks at your selections, your exclusions, your filters. It determined that the D drive is a USB drive on the machine. So we could build an audit here in the console to say, these are my current selections, build hashes against those selections. And if they change, throw triggers, throw alerts that would say, hey, somebody's changed something here in this environment, and require you to either go in and authorize that one or let it run for a few more days and overwrite that alert or that warning. So customizing views, I wanted to throw a little bit out here. These might be some items you want to screenshot. If you use the blog link in my handout document, it'll take you to some blogs I've written which talk you through building out these kind of filters. But I want to show the syntax a little bit for some of the date time. That seems to be the biggest area of concern with these. So creation date. Creation date is when the agent was first added into the system, when it was deployed. And we can look at creation date relative to the current timestamp. So if we look at creation date that was less than 60 minutes ago, we'd see new devices created within the last hour. This is the filter or the syntax for the advanced search over here on the left. Whoops, let me go back up one. This is the human readable version of it. Now you'll notice my greater thans and less thans are different from the left to right here. And that's because any of these queries are basing themselves on a Unix timestamp, what's called epoch time, and that's the number of seconds, a number of positive seconds since 1970. So as time goes on, the number of epoch seconds grows and grows and grows and grows. And because I'm counting backwards from right now, the current timestamp, looking at creation dates that are more, that are in the last 60 minutes, this query is looking at current time minus 60 minutes worth of seconds ago. So the greater thans, the less thans end up being inverted when I'm counting backwards in time. This is going to be the function as you learned in elementary school, and is going to make it look a little bit more human readable. The structure though, a number, a unit, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, day or days, either one's fine, week or weeks, either one is fine. And we can do a go or since. So there's other Boolean types of and expression types of structures here, all available in our documentation to build these out, but I'm happy to work with you on advanced filters if you're trying to build something you just can't quite get there. They can be combined together. So we can look at creation date is more than a month ago, but the total S backup is that's offsite and synced is never. Combine this with the local speed vault enabled or disabled, and you could find out new devices you created in the last month that for whatever reason have not finished their initial backup yet, or their initial seed, or it's on the vault but not fully synchronized to the cloud. So this is a good combo that you could put together and encapsulate inside of parentheses, and then merge together with other and or conditions. Down here, we're looking at creation date and timestamp. So it was created more than a month ago, and the timestamp is less than 24 hours, and it's never had a successful backup. So creation date, one thing to look at. Same kind of thing, example for timestamps, the heartbeat. So machines that are online or offline, when they were last online, combine timestamp with total last, or timestamp creation and total last. So we can see that condition structure down here again. Total last successful, that's the TL equals 0. So that's last successful offsite backup sync. If you have a speed vault in place, this is very important. If there's no vault, it's only offsite. But you can look at it, it's been more than 24 hours, more than 2 days, more than a week. We give you less than 24, 24 to 48, greater than 48 in the console, but you can just as easily come in and take those and tweak them, adjusting with the units of measure of your choice. Speed vaults, this is some of the ways to look at the different syncs for that. Vault is enabled, LSV equals enabled, so that would be VE as the short code, equals 1, equals 0 would be a disabled, or not equals to 1, exclamation equals would be not equal to 1. So you could do positive or negative variations of these. Failed, YV, and the status is -1. Whereas 0 is 0% synchronized, and 99 is 99% synced, 100 is 100% synced. So we could do equals 90, or less than or equal to 90, greater than 90, less than 100, not equal to 100. There's lots of possibilities here. YV is less than 99 and not equal to 0. It's enabled and it's less than 99%, or it's enabled and it's not 100%. So effectively, these are the same results, or almost the same results. I guess less than or equal to 99 and not equal to 100 would be the same. But lots of possibilities here. There's no right or wrong expressions. I just recommend building them one at a time before you string them together, so you don't build a couple loopholes where you might miss a condition in some ands or some ors. There's been a couple questions that have come through here. We've got about 5 minutes or so, I think, before we start to wrap up. And I want to cover some advanced filters. And that's how do I filter on like partners and customers and devices. So let me cover that here in the advanced section. So we come back into here. Any of the columns that I'm working with, I can filter on. So let's come into columns and look at like device name and customer name. So we'll go to name. So we got computer name, device name. There we go. So AN is device name. So we'll start with that one. So AN equals, and we could do something like W2012. So we've got these W2012 devices right here, W2012 R2-02. That filter is going to fail because I didn't put it in quotes. So I'll put the name or the text into quotes. And I'm going to get no devices because I don't have anything that meets that condition. So we could come in here and try to put an asterisk in there to see if that will query for me. It doesn't work either. So it's not a hard equals in this condition. It's a like condition. That's going to be a little bit more like this. So AN is like W2012. If I do it by itself, I get nothing. So I need to put some wildcards in there. So I can do a wildcard after the text, and that's going to mean that it starts with W2012, and I get all of these devices now. I could also put an asterisk in the front, and it's going to say, anything that contains W2012 in the device name is going to show up. Or I can come into here and go 20201 in the middle, and now I got my 2019s and my 2012 servers. So these kind of conditions are there. Now, I can encapsulate that in brackets and put an exclamation mark in the front of it, which is a not condition, and filter on that one. So now I'm showing devices that are not named something 201. So no 2019s, no 2012s in this device list. And that works for account names, but it also works for customer names. So that's not AN, that's AR. Once again, check columns in order to find out what the column level is, or look at my documentation right up here. So we're going to do AR is not equal to nerd. So I'm looking at customers that are not considered nerd customers. It's not, nerd is not part of the name, not leading or trailing anywhere inside of there. I can get rid of the exclamation mark just really quickly and find ones that are nerd. So here we got backup nerd lab in a lot of devices in there. So I want not backup nerd lab, and we'll copy that, and not starting with HEH. I'm looking for nothing in a nerd lab and nothing in the HEH root tenant. And I get 3 devices now that are in these very specific customers and or sites. So these preface to exclude, say, archive folders, retired folders, ones you don't care about, is one way to come through. This same kind of text functions for the name of a profile, for the name of a product, for any type of free form, looking for a Windows OS or a Mac OS or an HP or a Lenovo laptop. That same kind of structures can be utilized there as well. Okay. Let me see where I am agenda-wise and if I've got anything else that I want to cover with you guys today. JSON API. I do a full boot camp on the JSON API, and I talk more about a lot of the scripts that I have, and I show off a lot of those. The link to the GitHub and to the automation cookbook is available in the handout document. I'd encourage you to take a look and see if there's something there that is useful. Think about your reporting needs, maybe schedule some time with me to go through those in a little bit more detail, and see if we've got something pre-built or pre-created that can give you those items. If you are trying to match an executive summary report from your incumbent backup and recovery product, or one that you've retired, or you've got a customer just expecting a certain level of function or structure, reach out. It's probably capable through the API, through a predefined view or a custom view, and we can make something that's either right-click and run, or a scheduled task or automation policy that would save those files and dump them out to your local system. And I can also inform you a little bit about upcoming development efforts around enhanced reporting and alerting to do more of this based on email and automation. A lot of what I said, like what I'm showing you here, is the steps I've built in order to prototype some items and to work around some of the stuff that Dev is building out while it's still being built. Okay. With that said, I think that is really all I have for you guys today. I've got a couple QR codes, upcoming boot camps and trainings. The head nerds are always building out new boot camps and new training. Hit the QR code here, grab the link in the handout document, either one of those, to see what's on the agenda. I've got 3 new boot camps: deployment, monitoring, like we went through today, and an advanced troubleshooting, where we'll be doing some live troubleshooting or canned troubleshooting, I guess would be the better term, of like VSS and Sentinel-1 and other types of errors that might impact backup. Blogs, there's a whole series of blogs out there from the nerds on different topics. Lewis Pope does a nice security blog each month, aligned with the Microsoft Patch Tuesday. I will do a series of them, kind of the day in the life, and through expanding out and growing your console. So feel free to take a look at those. Once again, links in the handout as well. If you'd like to schedule a health check with me to go through and talk more reporting, look at your dashboard, or anything else backup related, this QR code gives you my calendar link. You can see it about 6 to 8 weeks out. Book a time slot that works for you. Let me know your company name and what you want to talk about when you schedule the call, so I can come prepared. And we'll work on your issues as best we can, maybe during that session, or schedule another working session, or follow up via email, depending on what the topic or request is. I want to thank you for your time and attention. I do have a office hours session coming up, normally the second Tuesday of each month. So that should be scheduled for next week. Office hours, quick Q&A type of session, about an hour long. I'll also go through roadmap and feature releases for the upcoming May release of Cove Data Protection. So letting you know what's new, what's on the current development block, and what you can get into from a preview or beta perspective, okay? I think that's it. So have a great day, guys. I really do appreciate your time, and I'll see you at a future bootcamp, office hours, or event.